are an entrepreneur, and so this might be outside of your area of expertise. But I was wondering if you could comment a little more on the adoption situation, because of course we know a lot of churches and sort of movements where people are adopting children from other countries. And I've heard this accusation before, that it's actually creating a market for children that might otherwise stay with their families. Do you know much more about that topic, and do you have a comment on sort of what the attitude of people in America who are interested in international adoption should be in order to get around that issue?
The adoption one is a hard one, and I think you all felt it in the movie, because whenever kids get involved, as far as I'm concerned, I know it's never black and white. So am I going to sit here and tell you don't do anything about adoption? Absolutely not, never. Because in case that one child that needs it, I just can't say no adoption ever. But like we all said, look, at the end of the day, I think it's just remembering that nothing is simple and nothing is easy. And if you're going to go down the path of adoption or wanting to support adoption or not adopt it or not support it, you just have to do your research, your homework. I know it sounds hard because nobody wants to do homework nowadays. And that's what's so sad and what makes everything so complicated. And no pun intended, I'm not talking, But it is true, at some point, you're not going to be able to get away with having to do your homework, do your research. So what I would advocate is to never close yourself to anything, to never have a blank opinion on anything. But if you want to, let's say, you want to do some adoption work somewhere in Uganda, it's not about adoption in Africa, because Uganda is one country of 54 countries in Africa. Within Uganda, which part of Uganda is it? And within that part of Uganda, what's going on? And if you don't have a means to be on the ground yourself, well, try to connect. We're all connected today more than ever, online. Try to find out what's happening with that particular place that you're supposedly gonna try to go and support, and then make up your own mind. You may be right, you may be wrong. At some point, cut yourself a slack. But at least you did the best you could, and the best you could was to do your homework. And so you can see that there is no straight answer. Every single situation is different, and that's my position on the adoption one. It's a tough one.
My name is Ryuto Kadawakar, international student from Japan. My question is, what can we do as a student for the real solutions of the poverty issues?
I will say what you guys can do as young people, because we're on campus, and what can you do? Because a lot of what we talk about here in the movie, you may be sitting there because we're talking about policies, we're talking about rule of law and stuff like that. You're like, well, wait a second, lady, I'm at Lindenwood University somewhere in Missouri. How do you exactly think that I can help, with issues like that in countries far away? I get that. But all of that being said, where you guys have not been helping so far, and I hope you have gotten the point with Tom's shoes. So you see, the first thing I would tell people is, before you even think about what can I do, start thinking about, like when we talk about doing no harm, it's first and foremost do no harm. And just remember that whenever you're supporting companies like that, you are doing a lot of harm. And by just suppressing that harm, you're already doing a lot, believe it or not. So with the Tom Shoes, you've seen that model. If it was only Tom Shoes, but it's not only Tom Shoes. Do you know how many businesses in America and around the world are adopting the Tom Shoes model? People are doing, so they're doing it with shoes. Others are doing it with tampons. Some are doing it with water. Others are doing it with bags. Everything. So we are becoming the dumping ground of the world for everything. Everything. So if you thought it was just Tom Shoes a problem, Tom Shoes has opened up a can of worms that we don't even know where to begin. So first, stop supporting situations like that. If you do that already, you're helping. You see where you're helping already by just not doing any more harm. Because if you don't buy Tom Shoes, you're not putting people out of business back home. And that is tremendous help, isn't it? And the other thing that you guys can do, and this goes back again to doing your homework. It matters a great deal to me that you guys are aware of these issues. When we talk about rule of law, that you make yourself more pro-business, people who support business, rather than, in the name of social justice, I hate business. When you have that type of attitude, you are hurting me. When you have that attitude, you are actually supporting and promoting laws all the way from the United States that are going to be taken into account all the way in my country. When you are supporting, when you are anti-business and you are like picketing somewhere and saying, yeah, we need to protect workers. Now let me take this example. You have all heard about the sweatshop issues, right? Most people in this room, I'm sure, are probably saying, sweatshops, a terrible thing. Who here feels that way? Sweatshops, a terrible thing. Raise your hand. I know more than you. Almost all the room feels like sweatshops, terrible, terrible, terrible. I used to think this way. And guess what? When we say something is terrible, terrible, what did we all do as human beings? We go out there and we're boycotting Nike. We're boycotting the world and everything, right? And we're putting pressure on our congressman to put up some laws or to, you see how far it can go. Now we stay with this sweatshop thing. Most of us hate the sweatshop thing because we're here in Bangladesh, this building fell off on the people. It is terrible, it's horrible, I get it. And by the way, like in anything, you have horrible people who will do horrible things. I'm not saying that all business people are good, but I'm also not saying that all workers are good either. Now, the sweatshop situation. You sit here and you say it's a terrible thing, we need to close all of this manufacturing, blah, blah, blah. Well, did you guys read this article in the New York Times that just came out a couple of weeks ago on the sweatshop stuff? This is a New York Times guy. These are the people who are on the side of people. And they were making a case for sweatshops, the case that people like us have been making forever. Why do I sit here and why do you think that I'm sitting here making the case for sweatshops? Okay, so now you tell me, oh yeah, well, these poor people, they go in there, it's hard work and everything. By the way, it's the same type of hard work that your grandparents were doing and great-grandparents were doing. Because there's such a thing as evolution. You start somewhere, and then from there, these people's children, 2 generations from now, have a better life. That's how your great-grandparents started, your grandparents probably the same thing. But today you're sitting there and you're saying, oh, no, they should not be doing anything like that. And you are boycotting Nike, and then Nike is getting away from these countries or from these companies. And so what happens to this company? Now they shut down their shop because Nike is no longer buying. No one is buying their stuff anymore because you from here have decided it is bad. So they close the shop over there. They close it. Why in this situation? Because you said, oh, we heard some kids are working there. Don't take me wrong. I don't want to see kids working. I think kids have better things to do than working, especially hard jobs. Do not take me wrong in that way. But in this particular situation, because there is such a thing as a reality of a terrain, in this particular situation, this kid may be 12, 13, 14, but at least he's showing up at a place where there is a job. He can take money back home, help feed the family, and the family gets to stay together because, there's money to put food on the table. They don't have to spread to make it happen. Now, because of you, and because you think it's so despicable, we close the sweatshop. We close what you call the sweatshop. I ask you, where do you think that kid ends up? Where? If it's a boy, he ends up in gangs. If it's a girl, most of the time she ends up in sex trafficking. And then you over here be like, oh, sex trafficking is bad, it's bad, it's bad. But you created that in the first place. Nobody said it, no one ever said it was easy. But I beg you, before you make this decision, you gotta think. Because I know that anybody in this room who says, oh, we hate sweatshops, if I told you, this kid right now at least has a safe place to go to, there is work, it goes back to a family, everybody stays together, we're good. Hopefully a generation from now, that kid's children won't have to do this because the family would have gotten better. If I tell you that's a difference, so you have that, or the other alternative is some of them end up in gangs and the other ones are in sex trafficking. Really, in this room, who would tell me, oh, yeah, close the sweatshop, send them to worse destiny? Who here would say that? No one. But who here would have thought of that? Also no one. And then you ask me, how can we help? Michael Fairbanks said it. It's easy to have a heart for the poor. It's so hard to have a mind for the poor. So as we sit here and we make all of these big decisions, that's what you have to think about. And how else can you help? So I talked about different ways of not doing harm, so not supporting companies that are putting companies out there out of work. And another one is just getting yourself, having a little bit more compassion and being a little bit more educated around business and what it does. Because at the end of the day, who here has, all of you here, your parents, who here has a parent who works at a company? Here. So the hands I don't see raised is maybe you're not a student, so those of you who are not students, just a job, you have a job, you're here. Or you started a company. I bet you that most of us, it's all about, we have jobs. So, when people talk about poverty, make no mistake, this is not rocket science. You're poor because you have no money. Most people, when you have no money because you don't have a source of income. For most of us, a source of income is what? It's a job. Where do jobs come from? Entrepreneurs, companies, and most importantly, they come from small and medium-sized enterprises. Everywhere around the world, the situation is the same. Everywhere. Everywhere. Why do you think it should be any different for Africa? But yes, if you do agree that jobs come from entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises, then wouldn't you think that naturally we should make it easy for entrepreneurs to come about, to start companies and to run companies? If we all agree on that, then I will take you to the problem. The problem is that in Africa, they've talked about it, the legal infrastructure is the worst for entrepreneurs. So when I have you guys developing anti-business ideas and promoting anti-business ideas and supporting anti-business measures, you are effectively hurting me. So how can you help? Get yourself educated on what it takes to help businesses be created. And then use the same type of pressure that you have been using, because guess what? You've got a lot of power, guys, especially young people in this country. You think we don't listen to you? You think people don't listen to you? Think again. Expect that right now you've been spending all of your energy on, oftentimes, I'm sorry to say, the wrong stuff. In the name of we want to help, I get that, but think again. So, I brought up a lot of things. I am sure some people are still thinking, what the hell is she talking about? But sleep on it if it didn't make sense, and then just keep talking about that. I don't know if it answers your question, if it gives you some guidance. Yeah. There was a question here?
So like in the case of like all of these celebrities, like doing all these like photo things and like capitalizing on like the poverty image or whatever. So like, would you be supportive of them going into and like getting photographed like at those small and medium-sized enterprises, supporting local places? Do you think that would help affect that change that we're trying to bring about?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love nothing more than them, anybody who says we're serious about this, again, like I said, first and foremost, embrace, business solutions to problems. In general, it's a good idea because those are very sustainable ways to go about it. It's not sustainable when you always have to go and ask for people for money. It's not sustainable. So yeah, I would love to see them going to those businesses. I would love to see them, and I think some of them are starting to do it, like because I guess she's African, but Lupita Nyong'o, she now is starting to, whenever she's wearing stuff made by an African designer or whatever, she's helping big time. I know Beyonce has started doing stuff like that. So what they're doing now is they're seeing like, people who have companies in Africa doing really cool stuff, and then they're, exposing them by just, wearing the stuff or using their stuff. And then that to me is 20 million times better than what Tom Shoes is doing. So what we need to do, that's what the work they're doing. That is the work that they're doing. And so yes, I would love to see that, to see more of that. And as a matter of fact, next year we're coming up with an online marketplace where we're going to be bringing out to young people in this country some really, really, really cool products out of these poor countries, created by young people like you, really creating amazing shoes, really cool stuff that you're going to love, and you're going to buy it because you love it. Because at the end of the day, they don't want your pity. You want to help. We don't even want to call it help. At this point, it's all about exchanging value for value, right? Because if you put yourself in the mindset, we want to help, I don't want your help. You're no better than me, and I'm no better than you. I got to give you something that you need and you want, and then you spend your money on it because you it's worth it to you, and that's how we're going to make it forward. And then you sell me something, and that's the way it should go. But no more of this, oh, I'm here to help you, and then you look at me from up here, and just when you think that way, certain connections don't get made, including the connection of, oh, there's nothing wrong with these people. They just happen to not get to enjoy the rules that I enjoy to thrive, as Dr. Yunus was saying, the bonsai people. But so, that, to answer your question, absolutely. That's what I would love to see them doing. Some of them are starting doing it. And for people like Bono who make songs and all of that stuff, well, instead of making stupid songs about, let's go and give Africans, food and who knows what else, well, I would love for these guys, the cool celebrities, to come up with songs where we're talking about rule of law and property rights, and doing business. That's what I need help from them on. Make those ideas super cool, and accessible to the rest of the world. Yes. Yeah.
As a quick plug, this school is doing a Kids Against Hunger campaign this Saturday on campus. So if you're interested, sign up. And my actual question was, are there still roles for traditional aid? For example, if there's a hurricane that goes through an area, by all means, send food aid to the area.
Absolutely. I think I hope always that the movie makes the case enough that when we talk about aid, we make the distinction between humanitarian aid, which is what you just asked about, and for that one, absolutely. We gotta go help. But even then, you have to get a little bit careful. Like Haiti, the fact, I find it deplorable, I find it horrifying, and it's morally wrong that 1,000 people had to die this time around in Haiti because of the hurricane. Because if we all had done our jobs right in the first time in Haiti when the earthquake hit, for example, by now, this hurricane would hit, it would be as powerful as it was, yes, but maybe we would have seen, I don't know, maybe less than 100 deaths. Because why? The first time around, we know the money went straight into the pocket of so-called those who are supposed to bring relief. And I know a lot of people gave money to the Red Cross. And do you know that only 1% of the money you give to Red Cross goes actually to the people that you intended to give it to? So yes, I want you to come and help if there is an emergency, and it needs to stay an emergency, it needs to be a crisis. I want you to go and come and help, but at that point, you gotta do your homework once again. Because there are local organizations on the ground who do a much better job than the Red Cross because they happen to be there. And by the way, they cost way less. Why? Because they hire local people who absolutely know what to do and what not to do. They're gonna go way farther with your money than the Red Cross could ever, even in the wildest dreams. And these are organizations that usually will try and buy stuff as much as possible from the country in the place. So think about it. Right now, you're shipping us rice, and you're shipping us all of these weird things. Do you think none of that is available in Haiti? What about instead of shipping these bags of rice, these bags of gears, who knows what else, then your money goes to buy it from somebody in the country who makes it, rather than having spent the money in an American company and get to make them more rich. And by the way, there's no problem with that, but if you're telling me you want to come and help me, do you really think you help me? No. So humanitarian aid, if a crisis hits, we all got to help, but we have to help smart. And your answer to that is yes. There is always a role for that. I will never contest that. I don't think you asked me a question about another type of aid.
I'm going to run the mic back.
Yes.
Sorry. You're not recording? Yeah, we're not on the bus. She was wondering about Oprah. Remember Oprah went into Africa and she helped. I'm pretty loud. But when Oprah went in and she did all that work and everything, what did she do? Do you think she did more help than harm? Did she come
Like
in?
her school?
Yeah.
With the school? I think what Oprah did with the school was fantastic. And she got blamed like there was no tomorrow. And this is also another, I'm very upset about it because Oprah decided to give quality education to these people, right? Of course, because she's giving them quality education, she can get less students to benefit from her help. And people were like, why is she spending all of these millions of dollars on a few hundred students? Now stand for a second here and think about the absurdity of that. I actually prefer what Oprah is doing, which means she is taking the time to educate properly a handful. And by the way, because she's doing it right, each one of that handful is going to be able to go and have real impact. Because let's say if I train you to be an entrepreneur, if I train you so much that you're going to become this great leader in the world, do you know how many lives you're going to be able to affect? Rather than if I just got you somewhere and I taught you how to read and write, which is what the donor world gets excited about. They're looking at how many kids is my money putting into school. They're not looking at the quality of education. It's all about let's rack up these kids into these classrooms, and that's where they measure, did we succeed or not? They're not looking at what's going to be happening to these kids. How much help do you think? So think about it for a second. If you only had $1, would you rather put your dollar towards, what's your name? James. Towards, giving James a wonderful education where maybe James is going to become an entrepreneur, or James is going to become next president of a country and lead something, right? Or do you prefer to give, it's $1 that you spend on James, one person, or you're spending 10 cents on each one of these guys. 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents, we're like, yeah, great, we put 10 people to school. But she probably is going to drop out after year 2 or 3, maybe go look for work. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, all of these people, they come out and they're all still going out there looking for work. They know how to write their name, which is a good thing, and they know how to read, which is and count, which is a good thing. But James, we put a $1, and James is going to be able to go and create a company where he can hire all 10 of them. And they all have a great job and everything. And that's what people missed in the Oprah situation. And the fact that you're even asking me that question, no, I'm not her question. But please, we're having a conversation here. So the fact even that the question comes up, it's normal that it comes up because many people have issues with that. And this is once again where people are patronizing us. It's a matter of not taking us seriously. So actually, the type of school we're going to be creating in Senegal next year it's almost like the type of schools like Oprah. So we're going to have very few students, but we are really going to focus on them and really helping them flourish. And so each one of these kids, the goal is for them to go and do huge things. Now, I'm not saying that somebody who just learns to read and write, to read and count is not going to do the same thing, but we're going to become serious even there. And stop looking at people just like a number of cows, and we count, and we're all excited because we put millions of people through the system. And I would like to say that in the US, we probably have the same problem. We think just putting kids into the education system is the right thing to do, and we're not looking at the quality of what they're really getting from it. So, but at this point, we're all in the same boat. But that was my answer for you on that. Yes?
Could you tell us more about your own?
Yes. My first company, beverage company, so what I focus on is building companies that have embedded in their DNA the very best of my culture. Because when I go home, the first company, for example, when I go home and to discover that the beverage of my youth has disappeared, because people feel like to show that you have made it, you drink Western brands. And so in this situation, it meant that my childhood drink, the hibiscus, was basically not, the women who used to grow it, we're no longer growing it because there's no more market for it. So they're leaving the countryside, packing themselves into cities and feeding the cycle of poverty. I felt really wrong about it, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to start a company, a beverage company that we're going to start it out in the United States, where ideally it would be, like some of the most sophisticated population, customer base that would be buying it. And so we did that. We put, back in the days, we put 4,000 women back to work, and eventually I had started a company to give a big middle finger to Coca-Cola and Pepsi. A few years later, Pepsi is one of the people who came to knock on the door, and that was the beginning of big issues for me, because sometimes when big companies come and take over small companies like ours, they also think that they know better how to handle it, and they have their own vision for it, and eventually I split. I left and went to start another company, which is my skincare company of now, and that one is same thing. We go back to really great ingredients from my country, and also to the know-how of the traditional healers of my country. So as I'm speaking to you now that we've established market in the US, we're sold at places like Nordstrom, it's our anchor retailer, we are moving production to Africa. So starting in a month, stuff will be made in Africa. And that's been a very interesting journey, the moving back to Africa. And the same time we're there, half of our profits go towards an education fund, the one I was telling you about, and it's going to be about creating this innovative school. And by the way, that school, we created a model such school in Austin, Texas, which is where I live when I'm in the US. So in Austin, we have this model school where we're focused on high schoolers, and basically the goal is to really help them flourish into becoming amazing entrepreneurs. So some of them already have their own company. So imagine, and we believe that some of them will basically, by the time they get out of our school, a couple of them, maybe will have a company that's worth a few $1 million. Because our goal is get people to live creative lives and interesting lives, get them to build businesses, and with the money that they make, they can free themselves from some constraints and lead even more exciting, better lives. There's no reason why things should be so linear. So that's what I do. I am working, like I said, on a third business. This one is on stealth mode. It's launching next year, and it's going to be this online platform bringing you the very best of African brands that are being built right now by young people like you. And at the same time, I also work on policy reforms. Remember when we talked about the fact that the legal infrastructure had to be right? Well, in Senegal right now, I'm working with the British Endowment Foundation, which is one of the most respected free market organizations out there. And we are working on basically making sure that my country becomes one of the best reformers on the Doing Business Index ranking of the World Bank. So what we're doing is two ways. One way is two-pronged. One prong is we're building awareness in the population around the need for better business climate. And on the side, so remember when I was talking about I need people to make these messages really cool and accessible for people? In Senegal, we're working on like some wrapped messages. So we're gonna have like even debates that are completely wrapped. The whole debate is wrapped. It's really cool. And at the same time, we are working on the government, putting pressure on them and bringing them some e-government solutions as well. And so that way we're hoping that, to handle some of these solutions. So you can see that my life is monomaniacally focused on entrepreneurship at all levels. I practice it, I preach it like tonight, I work on policy reforms, and I'm also working on the next generation for them to also be free market oriented, to be people who respect business, who understand business and understand the power of business. So that's what I do. It's a very monomaniacal life, but it's a very fun life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Yes?
My question's about how to grow medium businesses in Africa and other third world countries. How do you encourage lenders to lend to people who don't have any sort of collateral for that, such as the small businessman who's doing juice and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that until things get better, things like as we do what we're doing, you're going to come naturally and say, I'm going to lend money, and also as people are more serious on property rights as well and the land titling issues, you're going to see more. As we fix those, more of you will come and want to lend money. In the meantime, what some of us are doing is we are basically cushioning the problem, meaning we're creating in between people so that your money comes through, but there's some type of some type of protection around it, so other people take the risk of your money. So what happens is that you have people on the ground who happen to know the territory very well, and then you will be basically resting on their back as you come in. So we're seeing a lot of that. So as people like me go around telling people that you need to do business in Africa, when people like you open your mind to it, then what's happening in the ground is also other people who are starting to form some funds. Now finally we're starting to see some investment funds of people who are local. They know the market, and so it's less risk for you. So these are the ways in which now you can start looking at being being an investor of some kind on the continent. And if that is something that is of interest to you, I could maybe send some links out, and then you could start looking into them. I know that Kiva has moved away from the microfinance strictly into bigger loans. So Kiva too, and they vet things pretty well as well. So there are ways to get involved at that level. Kiva is a great one, but there are others.
It seems to be, how do I phrase this question? So like for individuals who really do want to help and like want to be part of like the, I don't know, the NGO society, how do you suggest we go about like changing and making that impact in a way that's not harmful and continuing this cycle? Because you want to have the sustainability and this like economic growth and like get rid of these mindsets that are just kind of being perpetuated by society. So it seems like vocational school is something that like you would support, but at the same time, like what is something that like an American random person could try to do that's not offensive and is helpful and good? Yeah,
I think it's a very good question, and the very simple answer I have, and it works every time. It's you always have to think about: am I offering? Is my involvement? Is what I'm offering? Is it gonna provide? Is it something that's gonna be working towards people being more productive? If the answer is yes, then it works. I'll give you an example. And Rwanda has done this very well, by the way. Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, has absolutely forbidden any NGO who is not going to promote, some type of productivity outside of his country. You cannot go into Rwanda with your saved up soap from only God knows where or who knows what. He's like, no way, you're not coming. He only wants NGOs who are going to augment the productivity of people. Example, the Aquila Institute in Rwanda. You know that Rwanda is a beautiful country, and they are developing the tourism industry. But they also happen to have this problem where we don't have enough people trained in the hospitality services, right? So what the Aquila Institute has done, it's a school, it's a non-profit, but what they do is they train people into hospitality services. Now, see, they're trained. The tourism industry is developing big time. Now, guess what? They have 100% placement year after year of every single class. So what they're doing is they're training people into things that are valuable to send them into the marketplace. So if you come and you tell me, hey, gee, I have a nonprofit like that, absolutely, you're helping. You're coming and you say, hey, I have this nonprofit where we're gonna provide coding. We're gonna teach the kids how to code. I say, come, please. I'll be the first one actually just to ask you to come and help to work with us in our school. You know what I'm saying? So you see how that is very different from people who come and say, our goal is going to be, we're going to give free books and free stuff to kids all the time. That one sounds good because you're like, well, I'm being productive because if a kid doesn't have pens, how can he learn? Right? And then I say, as you give free stuff to this kid, maybe you need to think about other ways around the pen and things of that nature. So it's just always thinking about how exactly is it that what I'm doing is contributing to this person learning how to fish. You always know when you're giving a fish. And if that's what you're doing is giving a fish, and it is not in the case of an emergency like he was asking earlier, then you probably have no business doing that. Then you're probably gonna have counter effects. Does that make sense? Yes?
One of the things mentioned in the documentary was how Africa, big problem with Africa is that it's disconnected from the rest of the world.
Right.
What is your opinion on how to go on about that to get bigger connection, Africa and the rest of the world, that would help them to rise economically as a continent?
I think, when I told you that, for example, in my country, we're working on the Doing Business Index ranking of the World Bank, making sure that my country becomes a better reformer on that. As we do that, what happens, as you can imagine, is more entrepreneurs are creating businesses, indigenous entrepreneurs, but also people coming from the outside world and coming to start companies. And you see how all of a sudden, the inclusion is happening, because we're now tapping into resources that were not available to them until now, just because when you're an entrepreneur, when you're an investor right now, if I tell you to invest, maybe you're not going to think that way because you're not an investor and you don't see, but in the world of investors, you know, how it works professionally speaking. If somebody calls me, and I get some calls sometimes from people, oh, can you invest in me, blah, blah, blah. Well, I know that your country is not a stable country, first of all. I know that in your country there is no rule of law. Meaning, I give you my money, I invest in you, and all of a sudden you're doing things with the money that you're not supposed to do, or whatever it is. If it was in the United States, you can show up and, you know, you can go to court and quickly a decision will be made, and you know that you have rights, that other person has rights, and something will be taken care of. But if you know that in this country, no such thing, do you really think that you're going to want to invest in that country, in that person? And not because of a person, but because of a place they live in. You see how that simple fact excluded them from everything else. That's what we're talking about, right? So that's one thing where you can sit here and tell me, oh, but I can't change those laws. Yes, you can, from what I talked about before. When you're going to go out there and advocate things, you need to advocate pro-business ideas, or, you know, from that standpoint. But then a most direct way in which you can help make sure that the connection is happening is, instead of buying Tom's shoes, if you need those cool fancy shoes, well, there's Au Liberté, there's Soul Rebels. These are really cool shoe companies out of Ethiopia, and when you do that, the connection is happening, because now they have access to you. Right now they don't have access to you. Right now you guys are not talking to each other. And that's what we're talking about. Again, it's not rocket science what we're talking about. It's just this notion of having access to everything that's available around the world. You know? And maybe we take it granted for here, because here, guess what? Even I came to you. From all the way from Africa, I came to you. Right? And people are investing in American companies from all over the world. If you want to travel to my country, guess what? You get to come to my country and you don't even need a visa to get in. But do you know that most of my people can't come to your country even for vacation? They won't get the visa. These are all the type of exclusions we're talking about. Yes?
So what are your thoughts on the products that are like fair trade certified?
I used to be a huge fan of fair trade, and then I got into a huge fight with fair trade, and then I don't believe in fair trade anymore. Why? So, boy. You know, fair trade, I feel, and these are going to be harsh words, I feel like the fair trade model is almost like a mafia model. It's super, super expensive for people to get fair trade certified, and most importantly, the benefits that they get, it's really not. Actually, I know a lot of fair trade farmers and corporations, co-ops, who basically get less money than their conventional friends. And I don't know, last time you looked at the board of the whole FLOW thing. FLOW is a big organization that basically runs all the fair trade. It's like the mothership. And fair trade here, Transfer, is basically their agent in the United States. And then other countries, they call something different. But FLOW is a big mothership. And we find out there that at the board level, the farmers, I think it's one board member that represents the farmers. No good could come out of that. And then the prices, they're stuck back in times when they didn't even look at the inflation. But inflation is not even counted in. So these people are making actually less than they should be making. And they have to pay gazillions to be part of this. So one of the issues I had with them is at some point, you know, and then the fair trade thing, if you really want to know more about that, I will send you literature on that, where they take the time to explain everything. It's a complicated process that I could get into right now, but then most of the people in the room are going to leave by the time I'm done. So, if that really matters to you, I should send it to you. And actually, I think I'm going to want to work on something about the fair trade, because I know that on campus you guys have been awesome. You made fair trade cool. And I know you made it cool because you believed it works and it helps. And for that, I give you big kudos. But I also think it's about time that we demystify fair trade, because actually fair trade, in my mind, is very anti-business at the core.
So
lately, the last couple of years of my life, I've been extremely obsessed with supporting local business entrepreneurs here in the St. Louis and Kansas City area. One of my buddies started a clothing company this summer in the St. Louis area, and I've been wearing a lot of his hats and shirts and whatnot. And I never really put two and two together that the same exact ideology of supporting local businesses here is what we should be doing for internationally as well. And I just want to thank you so much for coming here and speaking to us about this, because you have definitely enlightened my life. I'm a nonprofit major and I'm rethinking my career choices right now. So I thank you so much for coming here and encouraging that different perspective. I'll make my major, but I might do other things.
Good for you.
I just appreciate that.
You're most welcome.
Just so you know, we encourage our nonprofit majors to work in a pro-business environment.
That's wonderful.
Because that's where they need it, in the nonprofit and the for-profit sector.
That's right. I love that, because at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship is not about just being an entrepreneur. It's about a mindset. And actually, it is right. If we have helped change your mind, in the sense that you're thinking about everything from the entrepreneurial standpoint, you can take it back to nonprofits and help them turn around big time. Become much more accountable, become much more efficient. That, trust me, my friend, you are needed everywhere. I tell you, anybody who understands these ideas, you can take them anywhere. You don't have to be limited to strictly for-profit. It goes everywhere. What we need is that mindset of thinking entrepreneurially and not fooling around, not messing around, and just being go straight through the highway. Because there is no time for anything else. As I'm speaking to you, people are dying, okay? People are dying. So I don't have time to sit here and, whatever big words and who knows what else. I need everybody to get on board. If you want to do it from a nonprofit standpoint, fine. You want to do it from a for-profit standpoint, fine. You want to do it from, working somewhere for one of those companies, fine. You want to do it as the employer, fine. I don't care. We apply to anything that you love and apply to anything that you care about, but take that mindset with you. That's all it is. Yes?
The question has to do with healthcare in Africa. Obviously, it excludes the situations of emergencies and disasters, but when you have people that come in from the outside, they come into Africa to provide medical services, is that something that's positive, like Oprahs School, or is that something that has a negative impact on the locals that work in the healthcare industry?
I talked about the adoption, and I think for me, when it comes to medical stuff, especially life endangering stuff or debilitating stuff, that's also where you will never find me telling you, oh, somebody's on the table about to die. Well, if it's not, let them die, never. Or let them lose eyesight, because no, I'm not that person, and I will never, ever be for something like that. Of course, go ahead and take care of that person. But what I want to make sure of is that we're not all spending our time and energy only on helping that person. That some of us, and some money, some resources, is spent on making sure that next time this person is in this situation, that they can take care of it themselves. Because the only reason why they're on that table and they need your help is why? Because that person is probably poor. Remember how we talked about poverty came from no income coming from no jobs, and jobs being created by entrepreneurs? So while we have few people who are out there saving these lives, we need a bunch more people making sure that we can create jobs so that you have less and less and less of these people on the table. And one day, hopefully, we get to a place where no one is laying on the table dying unless somebody else does the good deed for them. And guess what we're going to be doing with all of that time? All of that extra money, all of that extra resources? Can you imagine where we could be spending it on? Maybe better education, better even healthcare, cool stuff. Better what?
Because I thought about what you said. When Michelle Obama steps out of the White House and she can say she's proudly wearing African design, that
changes
sends a
everything.
message. And I'm also glad you said do your homework, because you're right. When my colleagues and I were in college, we didn't have as many resources to be informed. But there's so much now, and I would just love to see social media be used as a platform, and I'm hoping perhaps your company will look at that, but using social media to make people more aware of how we are doing more harm than good. So this is just, thank
thanks for being open to it.
Okay, it's almost 9 o'clock. We've got about 5 minutes, so why don't we just take one more question and then we'll wrap up.
That sounds good.
Let's see, somebody
who
who hasn't
hasn't
gone yet. Over here. Yeah.
I would like to ask, do you see any parallels in how we treat poverty in this country?
Absolutely. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. The short answer is yes. And I think I don't have to even explain that one. I'm sure that each one of you can understand and could see the parallels. This is where you don't need me to tell you anything. You're here, you see it. You see how it works. All you needed to know is that the way it works here is exactly what we've been doing out there. And what's going to fix it out there is also what's going to fix it in here. You know, in this country, I see a lot of people who are part of the underground economy. Just like back in my country, we have a lot of people who are part of the informal sector. Here, it's part of the underground sector. Both of them breed violence, both of them breed insecurities, both of them breed misery, and we fix both of them the same way. Meaning that here, we got to loosen up a little bit on some stupid regulations. You know, they say that each one of us in this room, anybody walking the streets of America, commits at least 3 crimes a day. Very simple crimes, because the laws are out there. Some of them so like backwards from like tens of decades before, and you're creating the crime. You're causing the crimes every single day. Each one of us, if a cop wanted to walk in here and look at what we've been doing all day, they can catch each one of us on 3 offenses a day, and none of us knows about those. We don't even know about those offenses. Which one?
And the cops are doing it too. So.
I mean, no, but my point is, this underground thing could be cut out as soon as you stop making so many stupid laws. First of all, there are too many of them, and too many of them are stupid, and they just push more people into supposedly, oh, they were criminals or they're on the wrong side of the law, let's lock them up. And the whole war on drug, don't even get me started on that one. And so, yeah, there is a lot of things that look the same way. And also, when you have a system where people get their money from, it's all about how you incentivize people, right? If you're gonna tell somebody you don't need to work, just pop some kids and we'll take care of it, because you know none of us is bad. We want to make sure, because the kids, once they're born, we're all stuck with the children. I am not the one who's gonna turn my back on kids, okay? I don't care who your mom is or who your father is or how irresponsible they have been. Once you're here, we have to help as a community. But then those parents keep us as hostage in a way of their behavior. Now, how do we fix that? No easy answers, but maybe we ought to turn the incentives around a little bit and make it that people would rather want to, you know, lead productive lives. So again, no difference between what's going in here and what's going on over there. And I actually would love and challenge everybody in this room to start taking note about what we talked about here and to see the parallels with your own communities, because it will give you answers as to what to advocate in your own communities to make things better. So, good question. And yeah, it's absolutely the same, mostly. You would take your question and then we're done. I think, did one of you have? Yeah, you're last.
Okay.
You're last.
So, my group, my class, were marketing for Kids Against Hunger and the food packing event this weekend. I'm just curious as to what you think that. Do you think that it's giving them fish and not teaching them how to fish, that it's like the food that we're going to have to send out, like, I think a lot of it might be going to the community even. Do you think that's going to help them or hinder them? And even if the hurricane hadn't happened. We didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah, well, right now, the hurricane hit. Probably some people are, I mean, you saw it on TV. People are fighting. People are, you know, beating each other up because they're fighting for the food. So probably right now, some of it is needed, I'm sure. Again, I won't be standing between you and your conscience. You have to do what you have to do for that one. But I can tell you that this Kid Against Hunger thing, if it was me, I am not supporting them beyond emergency moments. So maybe you have to send them food now, because to me, that situation is almost like what you're seeing right now. People are on the table, and without an operation, they'll die, okay? So if this kid doesn't get this food, something bad may happen. But I would urge you, first of all, maybe instead of giving to Kids Against Hunger, do your homework, and they're available. It's not like this thing is hidden, by the way, guys. You just need to do more homework. There are organizations on the ground, right, that are basically working on actually probably tackling this issue, but they're tackling it as a crisis that it is and should be. So there are probably places where, with your money, they will be able to buy tons of food from local people, right? And put money back into the community. So your kid that you're trying to help is getting the food that you wanted for him or her to get. And at the same time, you're probably helping the economy get back on its feet because your money got spent on the economy rather than, you know, whatever it is that you guys are gonna be collecting. Who knows, like pasta and who knows what else. Do you know who you're making rich when you do that? You're, I don't know, some pasta company from here, or like some soup, you know, canned soup company, Campbell's Soup, really? Yeah, so you're not really, so that's the advice I would give you. Yes, help this kid be fed right now, because right now we don't have time to be fighting each other about, well, is it aid, not aid, whatever. No, somebody's dying, give them food, right now, done. But there are different ways to do it, like I said. And there, if you want information too, especially with the Haiti thing, I would, remember Daniel in the movie? He's the one who says nobody wants to be a beggar for life. He's from Haiti. And Rachel, if you want, I'm sure Daniel would love to connect with anybody who is asking who can we help, which local organizations. Actually had a long Facebook post right after the hurricane hit, and he was just begging and making a plea with people to not replicate the same problem as before, telling them don't do Red Cross, don't do this, don't do that. But he had a whole list of people that you could donate to. So because they're buying from local people, blah blah blah. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure Daniel won't disagree with me giving this information to you guys. So that's the type of thing that you can do. Always think, how far can my money go? Can I put it into local organizations that we can trust? Because it's smart. Your money will buy much more because these guys know where to go, what to do, and all that stuff. So instead of buying one can of soup, maybe you're getting actually better even than a can of soup. Who knows? But it's not for you to figure out. Let them figure it out. Give them that chance. And then as that passes, as you do that, also focus on what else creates jobs. Because that way, next time a hurricane hit, you don't have to show up. Because we're not that poor, but they were living in these shacks and everything hit them worse. And then you can take that money that you earned so hard and you can go on a nice vacation somewhere, or you can now put it to some kids who are going to learn coding or who knows what else. But get us to the next phase in life rather than always dealing with the same problems. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Magatte.